Welcome back everyone to the Boto alien spaceship. I'm your captain, Mayara, and I have been wanting to do another devlog for a while, but I have mentioned it on Twitter a couple of times that I am rethinking the way I am doing some of my ongoing projects, especially Midnight Dreary. I'm actually rethinking a lot of stuff in that game, and I don't even know if it's gonna be a 2D game anymore. I think I'm gonna make it 3D, but that's beside the point. But in the meantime, besides my mobile game that I still have to talk about here, I have been doing for a couple of weeks now another project that I didn't tell anyone about it because I didn't know if it was going to go anywhere, and I really didn't want to talk about something, oh, it's a very cool idea, but I just don't manage to make it happen. So it was kind of a secret that I have been keeping. It's not really a secret, it's just something I didn't talk about. But that would be a project inspired by an internet mystery, if you want to call it that. I follow a lot of channels that cover internet oddities and internet mysteries and the darker stuff that we see on the web. And I heard about this very peculiar game that apparently had been lost for a while, and that would be a game made for McDonald's employees to be trained. Like, it would be like a McDonald's simulator that would be used to training new employees at the Japanese McDonald's. The first time I heard about this game was in a video by Blame It on Jorge. It's a very good YouTuber that covers a lot of lost media, like lost episodes of series or cartoons or lost movies and games and whatnot. And he made this video that covered a lot of lost media cases, and this McDonald's game was one of the cases that he covered in that video. And it's a game that no one seemed to have played or even known about until very recently. And shortly after I watched that video, I actually came across a video by a YouTuber named Nick Robinson that went more deeply into this whole mystery. And there was also some unexpected events that happened that he documented in this video. I don't want to spoil anything because it's such a great video, and I highly recommend you to go and watch it because, well, let's just say that it's kind of an unexpected journey. Seriously, go watch it. It's very, very cool, especially if you're into investigation and mysteries and whatnot. It's very cool. But without spoiling anything, just the thought of this game actually made me wonder. I kind of want to do a game like that, like fast food restaurant simulator. And I don't know why this called my attention, and I really wanted to try to make this game. So I actually started making it, and I'm gonna show you the project in Construct 3. That's the engine that I use for all my games so far. And I'm gonna walk you through some stuff that I have implemented, and I'm also going to explain how I did a couple of things that might help other developers. And in the background I will also be showing some gameplay footage to illustrate some of the mechanics working. So here you go. I just want to say something real quick before we start the video. The other day I published a video in Portuguese of me reading the prologue of my book, The Children of Povelia, a supernatural thriller. And since the video had English captions, some of you guys really liked it, so I said on Twitter that I actually was going to start translating the chapters because, I just don't have the time to translate the entire book. So I'm gonna be translating the chapters one by one and releasing them through Patreon. If you wanna read the book and you will also be supporting me making content at the same time, I'm gonna leave the Patreon link in the description. And these are the patrons that I have so far, and thank you so much to all of you. And if you can't or you don't want to become a patron, don't worry, the fact that you're watching the video is already a lot to me, so thank you. So back to the video. So here's the project. I'm gonna walk you through all the layouts that I've done so far. This is, as you can see, the main menu, and I made this a very simple background here for the menu, and this is the logo for the fictional fast food chain that I have created for this game called Don Enrique's, based on, of course, McDonald's. I tried to base the entire color scheme, as you can see, on yellow and red, like McDonald's. So this is the menu. Here we have the buttons, and I'm not very good at drawing letters in pixel art. Not an artist, as I have told you many times, but I do what I can with pixel art, but making letters is not my strong point. But I was actually very, very proud of this logo here. I did all the letters, and I kinda made them like, not all aligned because I wanted this effect. And I also made an animation here, so you can see that the text has a little animation when this layout is playing. And I mainly use two different fonts for this project, as you see. I like using this one for buttons and stuff, and here part of the title. And overall, I was kind of impressed with myself making this project because I advanced very quickly in development, like quicker than usual for me, for my standards, I think of myself as a very slow game developer, but this project, I made a lot of stuff very quickly, so I'm kind of proud of it. I know that for most it's not a big deal, but for me it is. So let me show you real quick how I programmed this menu. Here I actually used a trick that I learned in a tutorial to, place this arrow when the player presses the arrows. The player is not gonna use the mouse in this game, so your cursor is not even gonna show when you're playing the game. The buttons that you're going to use are the arrows and the enter or the Z button. So I actually created a variable in this arrow here to control the position, and every time the player presses one of the directional arrows, it's gonna add or subtract one from this variable, and depending on the value of the variable, the game is gonna place the arrow in a certain position. It's a very simple trick, but it's very, very useful when creating menus like this. So ever since I learned it, I use it a lot because it's very simple and it's very useful. So here we have groups to control all of the... I made a group for each button, so we have the play button here. So you either press Enter or Z to select it once the arrow is, selecting the play button. And I did for the load and the help screen and the exit, of course. Here is something that I did to request full screen once the game is launched. And here's something I did to control the music that I'm also going to talk about how I made it later. The program that I used. So let's take a look at the help screen. The load is not working yet in the main menu. So let's take a look at the help screen. Here is where I'm going to put, the basic instructions, like the keys that you use, that kind of stuff. So far there's only this here, and there's only one button, which is the button to go back to the main menu. And after that we have the data input layout. This is something that appears when you click on play, and it's also something based off the McDonald's game, the original game that inspired me to make this game, because that game also asks for like your name, your information, and it also asks for your employee ID, because it was a game made for employees only, so they asked that. And here I also put these two inputs to kind of add to the realism. kind of I thought it would be cool. You can actually input whatever you want. This information is going to be used at some points of the game. I thought this feature added to the immersion. And as you can see, I have two text input boxes, one for the name and the other one for the ID, and each one have their variables to store whatever the player inputs in them. And then we have the sort of intermission layout. It's kind of the introduction to the game, and here you can see it's kind of where the game really starts, and you can see we have the background here. And since I really wanted to have this retro old school look to the game, the pixel art and stuff, I made this frame here, this kind of layout here, inspired by the Shin Megami Tensei layout from the first game that I actually started playing on the channel. I have to continue that playthrough, by the way. I did not forget about it, don't worry. And I did it inspired by that layout. Of course I changed the color, and later I'm gonna change more of the appearance, so it's not, so it doesn't look exactly the same as the one from Shin Megami Tensei. But here you can see the restaurant, and this took me a while to make because I was like, oh my god, I have to do this background. And I looked at a bunch of reference photos, and when I finally completed it, I was very impressed with myself because it actually looks cool. At least for me. I'm very, very proud of this background here. It's so simple, but it was something that I didn't think I was going to be able to complete, and I did so. And here we have our the character that's gonna speak to the player. Exactly like in the McDonald's game, we have this employee kind of teaching us about how to execute the tasks, so I thought I should make one for this game too. And so far her name is Sam. I don't know if it's Samantha or something else. So far I'm only calling her Sam. And I made her, actually. You know, I designed her look. I looked at a bunch of uniforms of fast food employees, and I came up with her look and the colors. But the very base of her body I actually made in this site here, animebase.ru. They have this base maker, this one right here, where you can create a pose, whatever pose you want. You have some faces here, you can put whatever face you want, and you have the hands, and you can move the limbs, and you can create this whatever pose you like. Of course, if the character is standing, there are some limitations, and you can dress them and stuff. So I actually made her pose here. So far she has only one pose. So I made the base, and then I designed over that, because as I said, I'm not an artist. I don't know shit about anatomy. So I actually needed some help with that, but I'm also very proud of how she turned out. Here you can see the text that appears when the player saves the game, and here is the pause menu that actually works, and I used that same trick here to select the options in the pause menu, and the save and load actually work. And here we have the dialog box. That's where the text said by Sam is going to appear. This is the arrow that appears once the text has finished loading on the screen, to indicate that the player can, go to the next line. It took me a while to figure out how should I do it, and the whole code behind the dialogue mechanic was very tricky to figure out, but I did. I had some experience with it, but it's a lot of text, as you can see here, so it got a bit confusing sometimes. And here you can see I used the typewriter effect. That's the effect you see in most games that have written dialogue, where the letters start appearing on the screen one by one. That's the typewriter effect. And I used a variable, of course, to control the progress of the text and the choices that the player can make during the dialogue. As you probably saw here, we have some dialogue choices. These choices in the beginning, they don't have that much consequence. I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening to my voice. But since this is the first dialogue choice that appears, there's not much that changes. unless for this third option, but that is something that you will see when you play it. Then of course, after the introduction, Sam is gonna give the player their first task to execute, and she gives the instructions for the first task, which is to make French fries. And here I made a bunch of sprites to illustrate the instructions that she's giving and what she's saying. And the same thing here with the dialog box and the arrow and the game saved here and all the rest. And after she gives you the instructions, we actually start the task layout where we have to make the French fries. And this kitchen is also something that I'm very proud of, because it took me even longer than it took the front of the restaurant to make. And I researched a lot of instructional videos of how things work in the kitchen of a fast food restaurant. But it was fun to make. It was fun to learn how that thing works. So I applied everything I learned here. And as you can see, we have the bags of French fries here, and we have a fridge and all the supplies necessary in the kitchen to make the French fries. And what you're going to use to interact with stuff in this part and all the other tasks is a cursor that it's not controlled by the mouse but by the arrows, and you select stuff with the Z. And here, as you can see, we have the control for the pause menu, and I had to make groups dedicated to each element in the kitchen because the code was getting so complex to me, and coding is also not my strong part. So I made dedicated groups to all of those until the end of the task. And I also made a score system that is going to tell the player if they have succeeded or not. And to make clear to the player what everything is, I also coded so when the cursor is over an important item, there is a text. The name of that item is gonna hover over the cursor, telling the player what that item is. So I thought it was going to look pretty cool. And when you finish, the game tells you if you succeeded, what was your score, and if you succeeded or not. And of course, when you have choices involved, you have to organize all the text beforehand, so it's gonna get really confusing. So what I did to organize the dialogue and the choices and stuff was a tool that I'm very familiar with already, and that I talked about in an article I wrote about game engines for text adventure games or interactive fiction, which is Twine. I actually used Twine to organize the script for this game. As you can see here, these are the passages. Like this here is the intro passage, and you can see here that we have links to the choices that the player can make, and you can see where they link here. So this tells me which dialogue comes after each choice, so I have a better vision of the whole progression of the dialogue. So this is a very nice tool. Even if you're not gonna make your game in this engine, this is very nice to make the foundation of the game if it's heavily based on choices and dialogue and text and whatnot. So this is what I used for the text. Now let's talk about what I used for the music. This is BOSCA CEOIL. I'm not sure how you pronounce the name, but it's a very neat program to make music, and it's also incredibly easy to use. I was astonished when I saw a video talking about this program. So basically, you can create an arrangement, as you can see here, and I'm gonna link below a video that explains better how this software works. But as you can see here, the instrument that we have selected is the grand piano in MIDI. So if we place a couple of notes here, that's how easy it is. We're already making like kind of a theme here, right? Yeah, so this is very cool. Here you can pause so it's not playing all the time, but this is what I use to make the music. So far I have made 3 themes. I have made one theme for the main menu, another one for the introduction, or the part where Sam is talking to us, and another one for the French fries task. So I'm gonna make more probably, but so far this is what I have, and they're very simple, really. They're nothing extraordinary, but I'm also proud of them because, you know, I never thought I would be able to make music for a game. So, but you know, necessity really gives you the incentive that you need to make things for yourself. And I can't hire someone to make music for me right now, so I was like, I have to do it. I just have to do it, and I did, just like I did in my first game, Family Dinner. But you know, I made the music for that game in a very different manner. But I'm happy I have found this software here. I was actually originally going to do with FL Studio, but I thought that the sound that this software here produces fits much better with the game that I want to make, with the aesthetic. So I just went with it, and I really love it. So I actually managed to make the first task of the game, and I'm very happy with it. I really hope I can complete it, because I think it's a very cool idea, and I'm really looking forward to know what's coming out of it.